And, dear Warden, I want to thank you for your help in getting my boy's parole. And I want you to know that he will keep his promise to lead a new life when he comes home to his mother.
Although he has made one mistake, I know he will keep the promise he has made to you and to me. I want you to know that you have gladdened the heart of a poor old gray-haired woman and have made what is left of her life worth living.
You're breaking my heart, Mr. Crane.
You think it's okay?
It's gorgeous.
Here. The warden will probably appreciate a lock of Mama's hair. Just add a line saying, keep this as a remembrance from
one who will always revere the memory of your name and will never forget the kindnesses you have shown me. Your mother wrote me that letter, Bradmore. I thought you might like to hear it.
Thank you, Warden.
You must have a fine mother. Are you going to let her down?
No, sir.
I hope not. Somehow, Bradmore, I'm sure that you won't. As your mother said, you made a mistake. But I know that a boy who loves his mother as much as you do must have plenty of good in him. Tomorrow you walk out of prison a free man on parole. I want you to show the world how you appreciate your freedom.
Don't worry, Warden. I'll show him. Pull ahead slow, buddy, and don't try anything. Do as I say, or you'll get one, too. Come on, boys. All right, Dutch. Help the boys. Right. Cut their lights and get down.
Well, what about him?
You heard me.
That's all for today, gentlemen. Report at the gym tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
We'll be there.
You did some good shooting today, Mr. Britton.
Well, thanks. I suppose I was no good.
On the contrary, you were above average, Mr. Wang. As for Mr. Madison, he's always good.
You see, man? Was that a massage?
And how? Hi, Ross. It's good to see you fellas again. How are the boys and Mrs. Madison, George?
Oh, Reed is fine. Say, the boys are way up here by now.
You don't mean it.
Well, sure. You didn't expect them to stay away down there living on Aunt Lindy's Southern Fried Chicken.
Have you still got Aunt Lindy?
No, I'll say he has. When this retraining course is over, her chicken skillet's going to get some heavy duty. Where are you working now, Ed?
Out on the coast. Well, by the way, George, I saw a note on the teletype this morning that'll interest you.
What was that?
You remember Big Boy Bradmore?
He should. Well, tell me he's broke in jail.
Well, the big boy is free. They let him out on parole.
Bradmore?
Big Boy Bradmore.
Parole? You tie that. I can't see how they...
Hey, throw it in my shirt, will you?
A great many people have always been sold on the idea that they're giving somebody a helping hand.
That's right, George.
Anything the matter, Scotty?
All that's wrong with me is I don't like Southern Fried Chicken. Did you just hear what Mr. Britton said, Aunt Lindy?
Yes, sir, I sure enough did. Mr. Britton don't like Southern Fried Chicken. On account of because he don't like it, he always eats twice more than anybody else, just to be honorary.
Oh, it was grand, Aunt Lindy. You're the best cook in town.
Much too modest, my friend. She's the best cook in the country.
More chicken?
No.
Seems like everybody's on a diet around here.
Are we going to have pie, Mama?
Perhaps.
What's perhaps, Mama?
Uh-huh. Explain perhaps, honey.
Well, Jimmy, it's... Father will tell you later, darling.
Your office is called, Mr. Madison. Don't you want some livers? I got some nice hot ones.
Maybe I should have some. Better take him up on that, Aunt Lindy.
Yes, sir.
Let's play with our trains. I'm president of the railroad. I'm the engineer.
Boss wants us all at the office right away.
Was it anything important?
He didn't say.
Well, maybe he wants to talk to us about
You keep the bridge table warm, honey. We'll probably be right back.
Well, how are the Three Musketeers?
Fine, boss, fine.
Sorry I had to break in on your dinner, but I thought you might be interested in these.
Nifty, I'd say.
You've no idea how nifty. This explains those.
Big boy Bradmore's fingerprints.
Right. We got them off the box the furs came in. The furs were sold to a fence in this city. And we've identified it as part of the loot that Bradmore took in that truck hijacking just after he was paroled. It so happens the truck was an interstate carrier.
And so we inherit big boy Bradmore.
Parole and all. George, you know Bradmore backwards, so I'm going to put you in charge of the search. Now huddle up with George, and let's not let Mr. Bradmore get away with another job.
But with pleasure, boss.
15,000.
You're good at figures, Counselor.
Exactly. I happen to know you got 21,000 for those hijacked furs. My fee seems to be a little short. It should be 18,000.
Leaving only $3,000 for me. I take it back. You're not so good at figures.
They aren't giving paroles away with chewing gum.
Sure, you had to do some heavy bribing.
I have never bribed a public official. Yes?
Mr. Calcus is here to see you.
Isn't Calcus chairman of the parole board?
Miss Menthe,
Yes, Mr. Creighton.
tell Mr. Calcus I'll see him in a few minutes.
Yes, Mr. Creighton. If you'll have a chair, Mr. Calcus, Mr. Creighton will see you in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Go to the Owl Hotel. Mention my name to the manager. He'll keep you undercover till the noise of this fur job dies down.
Okay.
Come in, Gus. This is a pleasant surprise.
Stop pretending, Creighton. You knew I'd be here. What about that?
Police seek big boy Bradmore and fur truck holder. Police are always looking for someone, so why not Bradmore?
You said if I arranged the Bradmore parole, I had your guarantee he wouldn't get out of line. Around here anyway.
Have you any proof that Bradmore pulled that job? Stop being a chump for a headline, Gus.
Just the same as chairman of the parole board.
Well, that reminds me. What about the matter of Steve Edson's parole? When are you going to have the board take it up?
After this Bradmore business, I can't bring up any more nominations. I had trouble over Bradmore as it was. And this man Edson has an even worse record.
What's a record? Paper and ink. Suppose someone were to write on a piece of paper, with ink, that Gustav Calcus is in serious difficulties with the finances of the 12-story building that bears his name.
What's that got to do with this?
I let you have $80,000 on an unsecured note, didn't I?
You'll get your money back. I intend...
I know, Gus, I know. I have implicit faith in you. But if the people who make investigations and write records were to go over your books and discover how you've manipulated your bonds, you can't tell. You might be asking for a parole instead of giving them out.
Well, are you intimating that the books may be examined?
Not at all. Not as long as I don't want them examined.
Oh.
Come on, Gus. Take life with more calm and serenity. Now, about Steve Edson.
I tell you, it's impossible. The public would never stand for that.
The public? The public is going to demand the parole of Steve Edson. You know, your humane viewpoint is really wonderful. And because I have faith in Edson, I'm asking you to help in petitioning for his release. Help this poor, unfortunate Mrs. Castley. If you'll lend your aid, dozens of other charitable women will do the same thing. Because you are doing it.
Very well, Tyler. I'll be glad to help you.
Thank you. I knew you would. I'll see that you receive petition thanks.
Thank you. Hello, dear. You remember Mr. Creighton?
Of course. How are you?
Fine, thank you. I'm glad to see you again. May I hope that our cause will have Miss Castley's support also?
It's about a man in jail, dear. He's been frightfully persecuted, and I'm going to see what I can do about getting him out. His name is Edson.
Steve Edson? I don't think you should have anything to do with it, Mother.
Oh, why not?
Steve Edson is a criminal. If you read the papers, you'd know.
Well, Tyler's explained all about that, and I'm convinced it's a worthy cause.
Very well, Mother. Good night, Mr. Creighton.
Good night, Miss Castley.
Oh, you see, she just doesn't understand. Good night. You can count on me.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
A humanitarian thing like this is much better than wasting your time in a silly business school punching a typewriter.
I have a reason for learning how to punch a typewriter. It has something to do with my life.
Before you met Bruce Eaton, you were a normal, sensible girl, fully aware of your social responsibilities.
Bruce is just starting in business, and if I can fit myself to help him, I think it's more sensible than trying to free some criminal.
I beg pardon, madam. Mr. Eaton to see Miss Casserly.
Oh, show him in, please.
Yes, miss.
I told you I didn't want Bruce Eaton coming to this house.
Well, he's here.
Mr. Eaton.
Hello.
Hello, Bruce.
Hello, Miss Casserly.
Enid and I were just going out, so you'll have to excuse us.
We were not going out, Mother. Bruce and I are going to a picture show.
A good old-fashioned movie, where the hero rides hard, shoots straight, and gets the gal.
Is this the lecture on architecture you were going to?
That was last night.
Coming under the heading of work. Look, why don't you come along? They say this one's about as good as they make them.
No, thank you.
You can't say I didn't try. You just don't like me, do you?
Why,
Oh, it's all right. I know you don't. I haven't any social background. But Enid doesn't seem to think that matters, so we're going to get married. We'd rather do it with your consent, but if you won't give it, we're going to do it anyway. That's it. Right on the line.
In that case, there's nothing I can say.
Oh, cheer up, Mother. I love Bruce.
And I'm not such a bad fellow, really. You'll probably like me when you get used to the idea of a son-in-law.
I dare say.
We'll be late if we don't hurry. Bye, Mother.
Mrs. Bedford, please. Mrs. Casserly calling. Oh, hello, dear. This is Ella. My dear, we're going to be terribly busy for the next few weeks. Oh, something very, very important. A great humanitarian project. I'm going to ask 8 or 10 of you girls to luncheon tomorrow and explain the whole thing. Can you come?
Would you mind telling me what I've joined?
Yeah. How about signing this for me? Okay, as long as it doesn't cost me anything.
Steve Edson is no good, and I won't sign it.
Say, mister, I wonder if you'd sign this for me.
What is it?
A petition?
What's the idea of asking me to sign this?
Well, I just thought...
Something wrong?
He wants me to sign a petition for the release of Steve Edson.
Steve Edson, a criminal? What do you mean by insulting our customers like this? I've heard about these, and I won't have them around my place. Give me those things. Now, where did you get this junk?
I gave them to him.
How do you do, Mrs. Casserly? I'm sorry.
You should be.
I mean, I didn't mean any offense, but I don't agree with this thing. Edson's are no good, and there's no reason why he shouldn't stay in jail.
And what do you know about it?
Just what do you know about it?
A great deal. Stephen Edson has been persecuted by the police.
Ah, lady, you're just a meddling sap.
You... Did you hear that?
I think he's right. I'm sorry, Mrs. Casserly.
Well, I'll see that we buy no more flowers in this place.
If I've got to get criminals out of jail just to keep your business, then I'll do without it.
Stephen Edson had a mother.
All right, boys, put your names down.
You still haven't told me why you've driven to the office every day this week by a different route.
Oh, the change of scenery is good for us.
Daddy, you going to the park with us?
No, dear. Daddy's going to work after he travels around the world. George, watch where you're going.
I've just spotted Big Boy Bradmore. I'm going to get out. Phone the office and tell Mr. Hanford to send Waring and Britton over here right away while I get in Bradmore's trail.
Daddy, are we going to get out here?
No, son, not you. You boys stay with Mama.
Oh, I know I'm being silly, George, but will you be careful?
Of course, dear. I'm always careful. Have a good time at the park. Try to make it fair casual, honey, but get to a phone as quickly as possible.
I understand. Goodbye, dear. Yes, that's right. At the corner of Market and Green. They started north.
Thank you, Mrs. Madison. Madison's on Bradmore's trail. Market and Green going north. See you later.
Yes, sir. Just a minute. Washington calling, Miss Madison.
Hello.
Just a moment, please, Mrs. Madison. Mr. Hoover is calling.
Yes, Mr. Hoover. Yes. This is Mrs. Madison. I know how you feel. You and George were friends. Well, I don't know just yet. But I intend to do what all wives of the FBI men do. In a case like this. You're very kind. Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.
Uncle Scott, Uncle Ross, we want to play football.
That's a swell idea. Suppose you fellows run over to the park and go to it.
We'll show you. Are you coming, Mommy?
No, Mommy will wait here for you.
Scotty. Somehow I can't believe he's gone. Oh, George!
The application for parole of prisoner number 7893. Name, Stephen Edson.
You represent the prisoner?
I do.
Parole is intended for prisoners who have served a part of their sentences and who, in the judgment of this board, have realized their mistakes and sincerely desire to return to society and become useful citizens.
I understand that.
And society must be prepared to accept these parole prisoners as a responsibility.
I sincerely feel that my client is entitled to your consideration.
Here's the prisoner's complete criminal record.
We're familiar with Edson's record. You're in favor of granting the parole, am I correct?
Yes.
And you?
Definitely not.
Then this will require discussion. Clear the room, Warden, please.
Remove the prisoner. You too, please, Mr. Creighton.
You understand?
Of course.
What are your objections, Ben?
Objections? Steve Edson's another big boy Bradmore. I opposed his parole, and I oppose this one.
You're being unreasonable.
Show me how I'm being unreasonable.
I'll have to admit that Bradmore betrayed the trust we placed in him. But are we being just toward Edson in considering what Bradmore did?
Oh, stop drooling. You and Calcas want to parole Edson. You probably will because you can outvote me.
The parole board is a humane institution. Its function is to rehabilitate human beings, and rehabilitation cannot be accomplished in prison.
You can't rehabilitate confirmed criminals. I've read Edson's record.
When you discuss a man's record, you're dealing with his past. In paroling a prisoner, we're concerned solely with his future. Now, one of my hobbies is graphology.
What's graphology got to do with this?
Through the study of a man's handwriting, it's possible to determine almost to an exactitude his future conduct. Now, I've studied Edison's handwriting, and in it I find great promise for the future. It indicates that he has a strong desire to become a useful member of society.
That's a lot of hogwash.
You just don't believe that a prisoner is entitled to another chance.
My record will prove I favor parole, when the prisoner deserves it.
Edson's prison record seems to be exemplary, eh, Warden?
He's been a model prisoner. The first rule of the inveterate criminal is to be a model prisoner.
Oh, here's another thing, Ben. You forget the great saving to society in parole. It costs about $400 a year to keep a man in prison, but only about $40 to keep him on parole.
And how much is the life of a man like Special Agent Madison worth? You count that a part of the cost when you're saving money by turning out men like Bradmore and Edson?
But Steve Edson isn't a murderer.
Gentlemen, we are arguing at cross purposes. After all, we are only the representatives of society. We respond not to the dictates of our own impulses, but to the demands of society. Does society want Steve Edson freed?
Yes.
Have petitions been presented from the public in his behalf?
Quite a number. Bring over those petitions.
You mean to tell me all these have been presented in behalf of Edson's parole?
Yes, sir.
Look.
Here, take a look at some of those names.
I don't have to look. You'll find names of people there who never heard of Edson. You'll find the names of sentimental sob sisters who believe that every criminal is a thwarted angel and every policeman a persecuting devil. You'll find the names of meddlers, cranks, frustrates, and stupid nincompoops who never miss an opportunity to scrawl their signatures when asked to do so.
You may have your opinion, but to me, these petitions represent a mandate. The people who have signed them have, in a sense, taken the matter out of our hands. And I might also point out that many of these names are very important. It's now up to me to cast the deciding vote. Gentlemen, I yield to the demands of the people. The prisoner is paroled. This meeting is adjourned.
I cast a dissenting vote as a matter of record. Good day, gentlemen. Will you join me for lunch?
Yeah, pleasure. How about it, Gus?
I have another engagement. Thanks, just the same.
Some other time, then.
Merkel just told me. Thanks, Gus.
I wish I had never met you, Creighton. Again, you'll force me to do a terrible thing.
Forget it. Come on, let's go out and have a drink.
No.
Oh, here comes that chicken woman again.
Yes, sir. I got strict orders from Mrs. Madison to see that you gentlemen get particularly taken care of.
And how you've done it.
Just one more little piece of white meat?
Lindy, another piece of chicken and I'd lay an egg.
That sure would be something.
Whew, I bet I've gained 5 pounds. Take a squint at this and you work some of it off. Society leader gives Steve Edson a job. Steve Edson becomes chauffeur for Mrs. Thornton Casserly. Mrs. Casserly, who admitted today that she had been active in circulating petitions for Steve's parole, engaged him as chauffeur to meet the requirements of the parole board that all paroled prisoners have positions waiting for them. Doesn't this woman know who Steve Edson is? She's probably been told he's just a poor boy who never had a chance. Yeah, well, I'd like to tell her about George Madison, about Rita and the 2 kids. The system becomes a farce when you can parole a murderer like Bradmore. The theory of parole's all right, but the practice is certainly abused.
And Lindy says you boys haven't eaten enough to keep a bird alive.
She's referring to an ostrich.
I'll tell you. Why don't you come up to the house tonight?
For a chicken dinner?
Oh. Mr. Randall Porter.
It must be something urgent to drag the family lawyer away from a bridge tournament, Ella. What's happened now?
It's about Stephen. Just as I was warned, the police are hounding him.
Yes?
Today, for no reason at all, really, he was given a traffic ticket.
Is this the important matter you couldn't talk about over the phone?
What happened this afternoon convinces me more than ever that Stephen needs my help. So don't you lecture.
Oh, very well. I'll make a court appearance and pay the fine.
We'll fight the case and have the policeman reprimanded.
You'll have to get another attorney for that.
Very well, then I will.
Hello, Mr. Porter.
Hello, Enid. How are you, Bruce?
Fine, thanks. Good evening, Mrs. Casserly.
Good evening. Randall is being very unreasonable.
Oh, you're always saying that, Mother.
Congratulations on your return to the social set.
Mother's my best press agent when it comes to things social.
No one is going to take your horse show cups away from you, not if I can help it.
And they're very important cups. I'm not going to defend them. I'm at business college, you know.
Oh, you can skip school for one day. I'd like to see at least one horse show before I die.
All right, Mother, you win. I return to the social world for just one day.
You'll meet a lot of your old friends, dear.
Right between the eyes with that one. But with a clean shirt and a carnation in my buttonhole, they'll hardly be able to tell me from a gentleman.
Well, of course, I didn't mean...
Will you see me to the door, darling? Or shall I call the butler and have him throw me out? Good night, Mr. Porter. You too, Mother.
I like that fella.
I don't. You won't change your mind about the traffic ticket?
I'm afraid not.
If you met Stephen, you'd feel differently about him.
Well, I know one thing. If I'd been in town when this thing started, he wouldn't be in your house now.
Don't be unreasonable. Oh, Carter. Carter, tell Stephen I'd like to see him.
Edson said he didn't feel well, madam, and asked if he might retire.
Oh, poor man. He's had an awfully hard day.
If you wish me to get him, madam...
Never mind, Carter. It would be most unreasonable to disturb him. Good night.
Hello, Steve. Come in.
Hi, Counselor. Quite a little hideaway you've got here.
Glad you like it.
Over the state line, isn't it?
You're quite observing. Sit down.
Thanks.
You couldn't guess why I sent for you?
Sure. You want me to settle up for my parole?
Mr. X wants $25,000. I want $25,000, and there'll have to be another $25,000 for you.
You're talking telephone numbers, Creighton. Where am I going to get that kind of money? Stick up a bank?
No, banks are passé. I have a better idea. And to quote you, it'll pay off in telephone numbers.
There's only one racket that pays that kind of money.
Exactly. The idea came to me when I talked to Mrs. Casserly about your parole. Her daughter's a very pretty girl.
Do you think I'm crazy, Creighton? Why'd be the first one the cops would knock off?
On the contrary, the police would refuse to believe that you'd even dream of such a thing. And your share wouldn't be exactly birdseed either.
I'm no one-man army, you know. I'd need help.
I anticipated that little contingency.
Who is it?
Your little pal.
Come on in.
And how are you this bright and shiny evening?
Who cares? And you don't make me feel any better either. Have a drink. It's worse than the stuff I used to make. Steve! Am I glad to see you?
How are you, big boy?
You know, Steve and I were pals when the state was paying our room and board. I read he was paroling.
Yeah.
Come on, have a drink.
Thanks.
Oh, no, wait. This is the good bottle.
Well, how's time been treating you? Doing any good for yourself?
Well, I started out okay. Got slowed down.
Yeah. Creighton told me.
Oh, that chiseler. Do you know what? Out of a little transaction I handled, he took $18,000 and only gave me $3,000. $3,000. Imagine that guy's nerve.
You got your parole, didn't you?
What good's it doing me cooped up in this place?
Well, whose fault is it you didn't work clean? Creighton's only keeping you here until he can get you out of the state.
He's no help. Say, you look great. Or did I tell you that before? How do you like working for society? Just, straight driving?
Yeah, so far, just straight driving.
How much you paying Creighton for your parole?
$25,000.
The price is going up.
Well, there's nothing I can do about it.
How are you raising the money?
A snatch job.
Yeah? How much is in it?
$75,000. At least that's Creighton's figures. Creighton wants $25,000, and Mr. X gets $25,000, and we split.
3 ways.
Say, what do you say we cut Creighton out? We can split the money and be way ahead.
Now, you boys won't get sore if I remind you the paroles can be canceled. Creighton can put you right back in the penitentiary just as fast as he got you out.
I think we better take Slim's advice and stay in good with Creighton for a while.
Boy, I hate to admit that I think you're right. What job have you got in mind?
Oh, it looks pretty easy. This Mrs. Casserly, the woman I work for, has a lot of money and a daughter. I think we can work out all the details of a pretty smooth plan in a couple of weeks.
Why give it time? You know me. Start working the minute you get excited about something.
You only get the jitters when you make too many plans.
What's doing tomorrow?
The old lady's spending most of the day at a beauty shop.
And the kid?
Eloping.
I think we're getting somewhere.
Today I was hauling the daughter and this fellow she's going to marry. They've got it all set to see a minister tomorrow.
Is the old lady in on it?
No. She thinks they're going to a horse show, but they're not. You should have heard them composing the letter they're going to leave for the mantle. They've got it all set with the maid to spill the news tomorrow afternoon.
What's in the bag? How many times does 3 go into 25,000, Slim?
We each get 7,200.
You're no better at figures than Creighton. It's over 8,000. Well, we got a little organizing to do, Steve. Here's to crime.
Lots of luck, Miss Enid.
Oh, thanks. I'll probably need it. Oh, I almost forgot. Mother wants to see you.
Right away, miss.
Sorry I was late.
We can just make it. Want to put your car inside?
Oh, old Betsy hasn't seen the inside of a garage in years.
Your mother said you had to take these, Miss Casserly. It might get chilly toward evening.
Oh, thank you, Colonel.
Yes, miss.
Let's go.
Hello? Oh, no, Carter. I won't talk to anyone but my daughter. Why doesn't she call me? After all, I'm a mother. She might at least ask my forgiveness now that she has married him. Children are so thoughtless. One gives the best years of one's life to raising them, and then, without a single word, they do a thing like this.
It's early yet, Mrs. Casserly. Perhaps she'll phone later. You have a drink of this nice hot coffee. It'll make you feel better.
Oh, nothing would make me feel better. I'm perfectly miserable.
This is station WLXA. When you hear the sound of the chimes, the time will be exactly 1 1/2 seconds before 10 o'clock. We now bring you our regular 10 o'clock edition of the news.
Long distance? Get me Elmstead 7231. Yeah, that's right. Elmstead 7231.
Ace Garage.
Those 2 tires got here.
In good condition?
We'll find them everything you ordered.
Okay, and if you want any more of my business, don't try to do it over the phone.
It'll be just as if I didn't have a phone, mister. So long. Look out! Ow!
Oh, Mr. Porter, Mrs. Casserly wants to see you right away about Miss Casserly. Daily Chronicle? I'd like to speak to the society editor. Society editor? I thought you'd like to know that Miss Enid Casserly and Mr. Bruce Eaton eloped this afternoon. That's right, eloped. If you'll call Mrs. Casserly, she'll give you all the details.
scandal you've heard. Enid eloped with Bruce Eaton. If anyone had told me that Enid would...
Just a moment, Ella. Is this Enid's scarf?
Well, yes, I gave it to her this afternoon. Well, that is, I had Carter take it to her when she was leaving for the horse show. Oh, And that's all I can remember now.
You've done splendidly. Transcribe that immediately, please.
Yes, sir.
The 2 cars are still parked in front of the house?
I thought it better to leave them just as they were.
That was right. Any identification?
Not a thing.
You're positive you can't identify the voice of the man who called you tonight?
It was rather high-pitched. Certainly nothing like Edson's. And it was over before I had a chance to think much about it. He just said, Mrs. Casserly wants to see you right away about Miss Casserly.
It's almost inconceivable. One reads about these things, you know they happen, but you can't imagine them striking home. How could Stephen, of all people, hope to get away with a thing like this?
Criminals always believe themselves smarter than anyone else.
I must have been out of my mind when I took that man into my home.
Well, that's done. The thing now is to find Enid and Bruce.
Then let's not just sit here talking about it. Can't you arrest Edson now and have him tell us where they are?
Not yet, Mrs. Cass.
But we all think he did it.
If Edson is involved in this, we can't arrest him now. It will endanger your daughter and Mr. Eaton all the more. Of course, we must suspect Edson just as you and Mr. Porter do. We'll follow Mr. Porter's suggestion for the present. We'll give Edson all the freedom he wants for a little while.
Make him believe he's the last person you suspect.
And you must help us sell him that idea. You've got to do it.
I'll do my best.
Splendid. And remember this. The first concern of the Federal Bureau of Investigation is for the safety of your daughter and Mr. Eaton.
Tomorrow morning, Mrs. Casserly will instruct her butler to have...
Edson, put Miss Casserly's car in the garage, please.
Where is it?
They're standing in front of the house.
Okay.
Yes?
Mrs. Casserly wants the car, Stephen.
Right away.
Good morning, Mrs. Casserly. I'm sorry if I kept you waiting, but I was polishing Miss Enid's car. It was kind of dusty.
That's because we're standing outdoors all night, I suppose.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll drive out to the farm first.
Yes, ma'am. Morning paper, ma'am?
Thank you.
I guess Miss Enid's elopement must have been an awful shock, Mrs. Casserly.
I do wish they hadn't been so mysterious about it.
Well, how's that, ma'am?
Having someone bring her car back and park it in front of the house and hang her scarf on the doorknob. Silly youngsters.
I see what you mean, ma'am. That was a funny thing to do.
Good morning. We're the insurance appraisers.
Mrs. Casserly explained that you were coming. It's the garage and cars you wish to check on, isn't it?
That's right.
If you'll please come with me.
As fine a job of car polishing as a person could want.
He certainly didn't spare the polish.
Here's something he didn't clean up.
Pine needle.
And mud from the brake pedal. Well, Mrs. Casserly told the butler we were to appraise the things in the chauffeur's room, too.
She's certainly playing it according to instructions.
No mud, no pine needles. Steve certainly keeps his shoes clean.
Also his wastebasket. Well. Maine 6600, room 42. Walton 4944.
Well, that's easy.
Privacy control. Which means that Edson can call out and receive calls unknown to anyone in the house. Well, here we go for that Walton 4944.
Tyler Creighton's residence?
Whose residence did you say?
Mr. Tyler Creighton's residence.
Oh, I guess I have the wrong number.
Tyler Creighton. Why should Edson still be consulting his attorney?
It might be perfectly innocent.
Tyler Creighton, innocent?
You ask such questions, Mr. Waring. Now we'll try main 6600.
Our hotel.
Room 42, please.
Just a minute. Room 42 doesn't answer.
No. No message. Search warrant for the premises occupied by John Doe.
Mr. John A. Doe?
We're not particular.
Okay, gents. What room?
We'll take a look at all of them.
This way, gents.
This way. Keep our friend entertained, Frankie. Waring. From the Easy to Pay Jewelry Company, addressed to Mr. Francis O'Donnell.
Never heard of him.
O'Donnell? O'Donnell sounds like a phony.
Well, don't worry. He has fingerprints, and they're never phony.
Well, sample number 1, taken from the brake pedal of Miss Casserly's car, matches with sample number 3, scraped from the instep of Mr. O'Donnell's right shoe.
Are you positive?
You saw the mica fragments and piece of pine needle in the sample from O'Donnell's shoe.
Yeah?
You will find the same things in number 1, taken from the brake pedal of Miss Casserly's car.
Which indicates that O'Donnell drove that car.
Got an answer?
Mica and pine needles mean mountains. The nearest mountains are across the state line.
Then that gives us jurisdiction in this case.
Well, Washington calling, Mr. Hanford.
Thanks.
Hello? Yeah, this is Hanford. We've made that check you requested on Francis O'Donnell.
Thanks a lot. Goodbye. Mr. Francis O'Donnell is better known as Big Boy Bradmore. That's all I wanted to know.
Here's where we square things for George Madison.
We'll go over the Owl Hotel. You stay away from the Owl Hotel. I know how you feel. I'd like to step over there and take him, too. But we can't make a move now without tipping our hand. We still don't know where those kids are.
And I guess you're right.
Just the same, I'd like to go...
Scotty, you and Ross run down to Aunt Lindy's and cool off over a nice hot lunch.
Mo chicken, sir?
Not right now, thanks. How about you?
A little later, perhaps.
All right, you all just yell.
Why do you insist on eating here all the time?
Our friends of the FBI eat here.
That's like putting your neck on the guillotine and daring them to drop the knife, isn't it?
It's convenient to enjoy good food and watch the enemy at the same time.
Of course, the enemy never watches you.
Never bothers me. I'm smarter than they are.
Are you developing an inferiority complex?
Hello, Rita.
Hello.
You tell Aunt Lindy her pet ostrich is here again.
She still insists your look's a bit peaked.
How's my two favorite children? I saved you some livers, Mr. Britton.
That's fine, Aunt Lindy. But before I lose myself in their unforgettable culinary glory, I want you to do something for me.
I sure will. You say the most scrumptious things.
Come here.
As you will observe, they've been sitting there for nearly 5 minutes and haven't shown the slightest curiosity about my presence.
Perhaps you're right.
Pardon me, sir, but I just want you to take a look at this here pie. You expect you could resist it?
Well, I'm afraid not. I'm afraid I'm going to have some.
Land sakes. How come I do that?
You're just a little clumsy.
I knows it. I knows it. Now, you sit still while I clean up this here. Oh, my goodness. My. This is an awful mess. My goodness.
And these samples of dried mud.
Scraped from Creighton's shoe by our new assistant, Aunt Lindy.
Well, gentlemen, this mud and these pine needles came from the same place as the pine needles and mud you found on Big Boy Bradmore's shoe.
Your suggestion that we cool off at lunch wasn't such a bad idea.
Everything fits, like this. Creighton was Bradmore's lawyer. He's Edson's lawyer. We're ready for our first move.
It's here, gentlemen. It arrived at the Cassidy house about a half an hour ago.
He wouldn't leave any fingerprints. Not this fellow. We'll give you 3 days in which to get $75,000 in unmarked tens and $20 bills. Then you'll get further instructions. Signed, Monarch.
Monarch.
Now we'll swing into action. Did you bring Mrs. Casterly's authorization to the telephone company to permit us to check all incoming and outgoing calls?
Here it is.
Turn that over to Preston.
Right.
Meanwhile, we prepared our own ransom note, just as we discussed it. The envelope has been fixed up as if it had gone through the mails.
Now, let me see if I have this straight. I'm to let Edson read the real note first, the one we just received. Then I'm to let him read this one.
That's right.
Stephen, we thought perhaps you could give us a little advice.
Well, I'd be glad to, sir, if I can.
Then you may as well read this. It came in the mail this morning.
Why, someone's trying to kid you. Miss Castley and Mr. Eaton eloped, didn't they?
No, Stephen.
But I read in the papers.
We had to tell him something. We weren't certain what had happened until his note arrived. They'd been kidnapped.
Oh, that's tough. Gee, I'm sure sorry, Miss Castley. Well, I guess the first thing the police will do is pick me up.
Oh, no, Stephen. You were driving me when they disappeared.
That's right, ma'am. I was, yes.
I've already cleared you with the police, Stephen. I saw them early this morning.
Before you got this?
Yes. The police don't know about this note. They've only seen the other one.
The other one?
This one. It arrived about 8:30. If you want to see your daughter and Mr. Eaton again, you will have to pay us $200,000. Put the following ad in the want ad columns of tomorrow's papers. George. Mother will do as we say. Marge. When we see this ad, you will hear from us again.
You say this came early this morning?
You see now why we don't know what to do. These notes are obviously from different people. We thought that you, being informed about things like this might tell us how to proceed. You understand?
Sure, yeah. Sure, that's all right. I don't know anything about this kind of a racket. There's a fingerprint on that one.
The man who sent it made a slip. It was invisible until the police brought it out with some sort of chemical.
Well, maybe if they could identify this.
They have identified it. They say it belongs to a man called Big Boy Bradmore.
My advice is worth anything. Just sit tight, that's all. Looks to me like two outfits are fighting over this ransom money. If you make any kind of a move now, well, it might be bad for Miss Castley and Mr. Eaton.
But we've got to do something.
What are the police doing?
Other than trying to find this Bradmore, we've asked him to keep out of it.
Maybe if I had some sort of a letter or something from you saying that it was okay so the cops wouldn't pick me up, I could kind of breeze around and maybe pick up a lead or two.
That may be an idea. Just to keep yourself available.
I'll do anything I can, Mrs. Castle. You're the only one that's ever treated me on the square, and it's something I'll never forget.
Thank you, Stephen.
Long distance.
Viewpoint 645W.
Viewpoint 645W. What is your number, please?
Helmstead 72... No, charge it to Walton 4944.
Hold the line, please.
Maybe you better answer it.
The boss said we weren't to answer.
Hello, operator.
I'm sorry, sir, but the party does not answer.
He said to cancel the call.
Give me a line.
Yes? Yes, hold on a moment. It's Frank Preston. He says that Edson just put a call through from the Casterly house to viewpoint 645W. And get this. He says that number belongs to Mr. Tyler Creighton, his lodge.
And Viewpoint's a mountain resort.
Pine needles.
But here's the topper. The party who called from the Casterly house told the operator to charge the call to Walton 4944. That's also Mr. Tyler Creighton's number. His house here in town.
Edson doesn't want that charge to appear on the Casterly bill.
Hello, Frank. It's 7:10 now. At 7:30, have long distance call Mr. Tyler Creighton at Walton 4944.
Hello, long distance. Just what is this all about?
A long-distance call was placed for viewpoint 645W and charged to your number.
No such call was made from here.
No, sir. The call was placed from Elmstead 7231.
Cancel it.
What is it?
Somebody tried to call the lodge. Whose number is Elmstead 7231?
You should know by this time. Mrs. Thornton Casterly.
Then that was Edson who tried to get me here.
And now he's trying to get the lodge.
You stay here by the phone. I'll see you later.
Tyler, be careful.
Don't worry.
Yes, hold the line, please.
Your broker's on the phone, son.
Thank you. Hello?
I'd suggest letting that stock go at the present market.
At about 7 3/4? And here is the letter you wanted, so the police won't stop you. If you can pick up anything about Bradmore, it will certainly be helpful.
I'll sure do my best, sir. And try not to worry, man. Everything will be all right.
Thank you, Stephen.
Bradmore. Slim. Bradmore.
Where's Bradmore?
There's no one here. I'm beginning to think he's hijacked us.
I think you're fixing to hand me the business.
Use your brains. I laid out the Casterly job and took you and Bradmore and Slim in on it. Why would I double-cross you?
And Bradmore's crossing all of us. He sent in a ransom note for 200 grand instead of 75.
Stand where you are and cross your hands.
Don't shoot, don't shoot.
We're federal officers. You're under arrest.
This is all a mistake.
Save it, Creighton.
Halt, Bradmore! Halt! Bring up that car!
Sentence. I want you to know that kidnapping is one of the most vicious crimes with which we deal today. 2 of you defendants are parole prisoners. And the third, a proved corrupter of our parole system, who not only defiled his honorable profession by aiding and advising criminals, but who played upon the sympathies of an unthinking public. This court has received information that the parole system in this state is to be remodeled along the sensible, humane, efficient lines employed by the federal government. I only wish that such progress could be made everywhere in America. Now, by virtue of the power vested in me as judge of the United States District Court, I hereby sentence you, Stephen Edson, Edward Rackey, and Tyler Creighton, to a federal penitentiary as directed by the Attorney General for the remainder of your natural lives. Court's adjourned.
Everybody rise. Court's adjourned.